Representative Bob Goodlatte from Virginia retired. He was on the ag jobs bill. That has to be reintroduced. You know, there again, we're starting another season where, you know, vegetable growers, fruit growers, dairy, mushroom, people are concerned about labor on the farm. I mean, we can produce it, but we also need the people there on the farm to harvest it or handle animals or do those jobs. Do you see anybody in Congress that's going to step up to the plate and maybe reintroduce that or bring that to the forefront again? It's been going on for over 20 some years now. We thought we had something in place to get passed, and it never happened.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's nobody in Washington that doesn't have an opinion on immigration, and this kind of gets sucked into the immigration issue, obviously, which is a very toxic issue. It shouldn't be, but it has become very politicized, and politicized by both parties, which is sad. When that happens, we become paralyzed, and we've been paralyzed. And as you know, and how many of your members know, and all farmers, large and small, one of the number one issues they have today is, quite frankly, is workforce. It's having that reliable workforce, that certainty that you're going to be able to milk the cows, you're going to be able to harvest the crops, you're going to be able to plant, and it comes down to the fact that it's compounded by the fact that we're at all-time low unemployment nationally, and it makes it very, very difficult. And so we need to look to all hands on deck when it comes to agriculture. That's why I'm very proud of the. I think I gave the wrong dates earlier. Actually, the Farm Bill wasn't signed until December. Well, in July 31st, the President signed my career and technical education bill. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm glad I made that mistake earlier because I get corrected. But, in the career and tech ed, that includes agriculture education. So it's making sure that our young minds today, or not so young minds who want to, you know, do something a little different, go back to school, get some additional training, some additional education. That includes pathways in agriculture, obviously. But it also means that we need to be looking to folks who are sitting on the bench right now. That's why I've been so adamant about giving poor, hungry families an opportunity at the American Dream, which only comes through having access to good job training. I mean, we want people to have ultimate food security that comes through a good paying job. And that means not just incentivized, but requiring them, you know, providing them the support, providing the casework, the child care, the transportation, in order to get to train, to be able to get a job, to go after these jobs that are out there. And there's a lot of them in agriculture. You know, manufacturing is huge in Pennsylvania as well, but the number one component of manufacturing in Pennsylvania is agriculture-related manufacturing. And so whether it's on the farm or whether it's, you know, in our processing plants, and then we have, you know, we've got to look all places. No life is worth totally throwing away. We have a lot of folks today who've made bad decisions in their lives, and they've been incarcerated. And I tell you what, it's tough to get a new start in life once you've done something and you've served time. And one of the keys to kind of recovering from that and changing your life around is being able to get a job where you can support yourself and your family. And so we need to look at how we do that. Now, the Career and Technical Education Bill does have a corrections component to it. But even if we did all that, I think we have far more jobs open and available, you know, if we probably get a high percentage of those folks. So that's where we also need to be dealing with immigration. I would propose, and I've talked with leadership on this, that the controversies of immigration are so complex because you've got people on both sides, the extremes on both sides. Some folks who don't believe anyone should ever come into this country, and other folks that believe there ought to be open borders and everybody just flows across undocumented. And because of those two extremes, we can't get things done that are common sense in the middle. And I would put dead center in the middle the fact that we need a bill that's called an food security agriculture workforce bill. doesn't even have the word immigration in it. And it's focused purely on making sure we have the workforce, you know, with a new visa system that's run not by the Department of Labor, but by the Department of Agriculture, by taking some of just the tremendous burdens off the backs of the farmers and the ranchers that have to also be in the housing industry because they have people coming from other countries. The ability for folks to come in the front door. These are good, hardworking, mostly family people who want to go home for graduations and birthdays and Christmas. And it should be easy for them to be able to do that and to come back, who aren't pursuing it, who do not want citizenship actually. They just want a good paying job, and we need a workforce. And so that is something that I'm working on. And but I don't, and there's all kinds of other things that are important to me on immigration. The law is important to me, the dealing with DACA, going to a merit-based system is all important to me, but I don't want any of that to be a part of this. I think we should focus like a laser on food security and agriculture workforce. So I don't know who's going to emerge out of the Judicial Committee. Doug Collins is a ranking member. I don't know if this is the broader immigration will probably be something that he works on.
This is probably, Rick, the issue that I think that Pennsylvania congressional delegation probably could have the greatest influence. I've only been there for 2 years. So I tend not to be wedded to what used to be and where it is today. I was reading a piece, it must have been in the Wall Street Journal yesterday, that said in negotiating, listening is extremely important. Listening. If we want to talk about economic opportunities, markets versus subsidies, then my experience has been, and where this experience comes from, because I was in the legislature for 36 years. And in that 36 years, I've learned a lot about the element of listening first. But once you listen, then you have to have the ability to have a free flow. What I've observed that's been lacking is the listening aspect, the listening. Because I don't believe anybody is not for some type of immigration reform. You have a debate going on language of border wall versus border security. Border wall versus border security. And and I'm a little biased because I'm in the Congress, and the power is really in the House. That's where the power is. It is the first thing, like it or not. Now, if we choose not to take that, we only have ourselves to blame. And that means Democrat and Republican. We are in the position to take this up because it really is in the House. When GT talked about the Farm Bill is a perfect example. It got bogged down and it passed. Criminal justice reform, which I heard sort of GT talk a little bit about in a different way. In Pennsylvania, we passed what you call a clean slate bill. And then we passed a second chance bill. You know, Governor Wolf, that's what they did. All those things are interconnected to the impediment. And the reason I said it's in the Congress, because this is the first, if you go by Article 1, it is the Congress where money generates from the House, not from the Senate. So we passed the Farm Bill and we passed the Criminal Justice Bill. Those were major hurdles. This issue is probably the most difficult one of immigration, because what I'm observing is not like there wasn't an immigration plan, you know, that had been put out there by various discussions. But people have to make the distinction about politics versus content. And I've had a lot of discussions with y'all, you know, from the Farm Bill. I understand y'all want to get to the bottom line of what's taking place. And believe me, I've struggled in my own head about how do you get past when folks are actually listening and become result-oriented. And the reason I see Pennsylvania is in a unique position is because at least I don't sense, I was just joking with my good colleague here, he introduced a bill at a state version, right, of your own version, something that dealt with immigration, because it comes from Lexington, it was about workforce. And I think you took some heat about that particular bill, which you can speak, but that was a state version, right? That he took some heat coming from Lexington. And I know that's obviously not that far from Philadelphia, and I know workforce is extremely important. So I guess what I'm saying to you is, we do need to figure out some way to get over this hurdle, because I do not think we will address the concerns that you have or anybody else has unless we figure this out. I mean, it's 18 members of us, it's 9 Democrats, 9 Republicans from Pennsylvania. And I personally think there's an opportunity. That's what I was, the first time probably anybody seen me say that publicly. I think it's an opportunity, because it has to be an opportunity for these young people, right? Got to be an opportunity for them. Right? And I think some things have happened in Pennsylvania. I've seen the clean slate, I've seen the second chance. There's an initiative in there that dealt with food deserts. That came from Pennsylvania. We started that about food deserts. That's connected to farmers. I'm saying there is a model. I just haven't figured out how we get over the hurdle of the name calling and the screaming back and forth to each other. That's just my observation. I don't know if Lloyd wants to speak about it.
Well, I think Congressman Evans is exactly right, and maybe I'm optimist, but I'm sure this will be addressed. I know when I'm talking to my constituents in the district that I represent, fixing immigration, the broader immigration issues that we have is one of the top issues still on people's minds. Of course, today it is with what we're going through right now as we speak with the debate over the government operations and the border wall. But there's a pathway to fixing this. Clearly, there's a pathway to fixing it. And as Dwight just said, Dwight and I, or Dwight and any other Republican member here, and you, right, could sit down and get this solved in a matter of an hour or two. But what happens with an issue like this, it becomes so politicized that it's very, very tough to bring all of the different interests together and to find a solution. I can tell you this, when I talk to business owners across the district, not just in ag, any business owner, the top issue is workforce. And I was in the construction business for 25 years. That was always our #1 issue, is finding qualified people to fuel the kind of growth that the opportunities that were available to us. Today, that really has reached crisis proportions. And in fact, if we aren't able to solve it, it's going to affect our economic growth. Now, we just saw some good job numbers and more people entering the workforce than that had not been participating, which is great news, but there's a lot more opportunity for that. But certainly, bringing people into our country who want to provide for their families, who want to fill jobs that are available, that are today not being filled by people who live here, is an important component of fixing the workforce issues that we have, particularly in the ag sector. Mushroom growers were a big, 65% of the country's mushrooms came from the district that I represented in the past 2 years in the Avondale area, Chester County. They were missing pickings because they do not have people to fill the spots they had available. And dairy, farmers are telling me, and you know this, right, as well as any other farmers in the room, if you lose your workers, those cows still need to be milked. And farmers in my area are very concerned with what happens if something happens to the workers that they have available on their farms. There's just simply no way to continue their operation without that. So we have to fix this. It needs to be a top priority. I know it will be a top priority. I don't know exactly who will introduce it this time. The chairman spent a lot of time on this. He actually was here in Pennsylvania, in the district that I represent, meeting with farmers to try to understand exactly how the proposed provisions will be implemented and adjusting those based on the feedback that he was getting. We have to continue this work. It's critical that we do. I hear it from farmers every day across the district, and so know that we understand, those of us who are sitting here understand the need to get this done. I don't know, it's really gonna depend on whether folks are gonna be willing to work with one another, rather than fight with one another, as to whether we can get that done this session or not.
One thing I want to piggyback real quick, Noel Wenger, which I know he knows of, you know that name. I met Noel Wenger some time ago. It's the first time, which is shocking, I was exposed to the issue of farmland preservation. And along with Noel Wenger and Sam Morris, who's from Chester County, neither one of them are around. And I remember we split a deal, an art of the deal. We gave 2 cents to farmland preservation, which was from the cigarette tax, and we gave 2 cents to the CHIP program. Noel Wenger from Lancaster and myself from Philadelphia. I had an interest in the CHIP program, which he did too, and an interest in farmland preservation. The CHIP program, as you know, went on to be a model. You know the whole aspect around farmland preservation. Noel Wenger was from Lancaster. That's from Philadelphia. I'm saying that to you, was a functional model that got you the outcome, right? That's the kind of stuff that I think is missing when something wasn't this complicated. It was just strictly on the basis that he knew he had to do something, I knew I had to do something. So I just give you that example to say, we have all kinds of models in this state that we can show and duplicate. The question is, that's what we need to do.
Let's bring the Pennsylvania delegation, get it done. You know, it all starts with border security. Once we have appropriate border security, many other things can get handled properly, right? If you're here illegally, you cannot be hired legally. So we, you know, call it high fences and wide gates. We have over 1 million people come into our country legally every year. Almost 400,000 at least come in illegally. It needs to be an organized approach. So it does start with border security, and after that, and what I really wanted to say is I would be very supportive of what GT is proposing as far as, what is it, GT? H2C? Was that the idea for workforce for 3-year visas for the agricultural industry? Was it H2C?
Said those times,
Yeah. 3-year visas for the agriculture community, and with proper renewals, so people are here legally and then can in fact be hired legally.